are back with the Sound the War Cry podcast. This is the return of Pluto part 2 with Miss Allie Duzett. She is here and she's got baby with her too again. So this is really fun. And Allie, last time we were talking about the return of Pluto, but let's quickly, for those who haven't caught up with us yet, they need to go back and listen to part 1 on the return of Pluto. So that is for you in the links and all of that. So go back and listen to that. Allie is a medical intuitive. She does astrology. She's a Christian LDS, and she knows a lot about a lot of really cool stuff. So we're talking about the return of the planet Pluto. And this is a big deal. And if you don't know why, go back to that first podcast, part 1. But today we're going to get right into part 2 about more on the return of Pluto. Right, Allie?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you want to catch us up on at all?
Sure. So when we're talking about the return of Pluto, we're specifically talking about the Pluto return for the United States of America as a country. And so, because Pluto is always returning to somewhere, right? And the idea is kind of like, if you think of on a clock, you have noon, and every day there's a noon. And at noon, usually the sun is up. Usually you might get hungry and have some lunch. Like every time the clock goes to a certain part, the hands on the clock go to a certain point in the clock, certain things happen and they are pretty consistent. And so Pluto takes 244 years to go around the clock of the night sky. And we are coming up to the same point where Pluto was when the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. And so that's what we're really looking at, is a return to the same energies that we had going on in that year, which involved revolution and war and, plague and sickness. And, they had a lot of problems right then. And we're kind of building up to the same energies now, and it's going to have a different flavor now because the world is different, and a lot's changed in 250 years or so, but we can learn from past Pluto returns what happened for other countries, and kind of, you can't really use a star chart to predict the future because that's not how it works. But to me, the stars kind of create a mirror, and we can see, what's going on down here reflected in the stars. And to me, it kind of adds this extra kind of wisdom. And the thing about these different planetary returns is that certain things typically happen when these planets do come back to the places they originally were, when a chart was first made. And so, we'll be interested to see what happens with this Pluto return. And I can't pretend to know what will happen, but we can look at past patterns and look at those patterns and say, well, it would make sense if.
Yeah, let's look at some of those past patterns, because you were mentioning in your presentation on YouTube about, the first Pluto return that was was it in Europe, or where were you telling us it was from? It was a crisis of the first century. Then there was a second Pluto return. There was a third Pluto return. So this must have been Europe.
Yeah. So most countries don't live long enough to have any Pluto returns. Right? Okay. And so there's really not a ton of Pluto returns that we can really draw on very well. But I drew on Rome as an example because Rome did persist through several different Pluto returns, and so did England, right? So for Rome, we count from the founding of Rome, and during the first Pluto return for Rome. Sorry, let me pull up my notes.
Pull it up. You have some really great notes on this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The first Pluto return for Rome took place in 216 to 223 AD. So when the Pluto return is not just like, this one moment. It like kind of is. There is like that moment, like 12 o'clock noon, the second hand and the minute hand are both at 12 o'clock, and that's 12 o'clock. But like noon is also kind of like the whole little time around 12 o'clock noon also, right? Like, would you count 11:58 as noon? Kind of, actually.
Kind of. It's close.
It's not true noon, but like it's kind of noony. You might start your lunch at 11:58.
Yeah.
even if
Right.
you were planning to eat at noon, right? And you might not finish until 12:15. And so you kind of have this little window around each Pluto return where it's not like the moment, but it is like kind of the moment because it's like right around there, So like squishy zone. So
Mm-hmm.
the squishy zone for the first Pluto return for Rome was in 216 AD to 223. So we had this little 5-year period or thereabouts, and there was a lot of assassinations. They and then eventually it led into the crisis of the third century, which is a real thing, and you can look it up on Wikipedia, the crisis of the third century. um,
Mm-hmm.
but there was just a lot of upheaval and political instability and skirmishes and little fights and little civil wars and peasant rebellions and all of this kind of business marked this little period of time. In particular, like, guess what? There's always problems all over the world, but the crisis of the third century has a whole name in a Wikipedia article about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a
Yeah.
little bit different than what was going on for the rest of time in that region, right? Um, so, so the crisis of the third century happened 12 years after the Pluto return for Rome, the first Pluto return.
So the Pluto returns, and they're waiting 12 more years until something kind of big happens. So are we saying there's a period of 12 years here from when Pluto starts to return?
Yeah, when I was doing my research on this issue, what I did find was a pattern where there's like big political instability. It starts with the Pluto return, and then it really culminates about 12 years later. So, with the benefit of hindsight, we can look back and see, and we can say, oh man, the assassination of all of these Roman emperors or whatever wasn't really the big deal. The big deal was like the peasant rebellions 12 years later. And so we can say that with the benefit of hindsight. But if you were a person living through it and your emperor just got murdered and now you have no idea what's going on and there's all this upheaval, you know that still is pretty lame, right? I mean, like, for us going through America's Pluto return right now, so our kind of window on our Pluto return started last year in January of 2020. And so far we're like 18 months into the beginning of the Pluto return, and it really culminates, like the exact moment of the Pluto return is on February the 22nd of 2022, 2/22/22, okay, or
Mhm.
thereabouts. And
Right.
so we've already kind of had a year and a half of this energy, and
So
I
why
think
did we count? Why did we count it from January 12th then, 2020? What is
yeah,
that?
because we had a really massive oh, come on. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up my Astro Gold. Maybe I can share my screen and show you. But
Yeah.
let me pull it up first. January 12th. I'll just put it like that. Let me type it right in. Sorry, I wasn't planning to show this, or else I'd have it prepared.
I know.
2020. Let's say 11 a.m. Let's see, Washington, D.C. See, calculate. Okay. So, let's see if I can share my screen.
Yeah, just made you a host. Should be able to.
Thank
There
you.
it is.
Okay.
Okay.
So here you can see, so this is Astro Gold. It's the astrology program that I use. And it gives you a chart. You put in the date and the time and the place, and it will generate this chart. And there's a lot of different chart options for any like astro buffs out there. I read a tropical Placidus chart, which, if you're not into astrology, don't even care about that. But if you are, that's what I read. So anyway, so you can see from this chart that we have the sun at 21 degrees Capricorn, but look at this, all of these at 22 degrees. We had Pluto and we had Saturn conjunct at 46 degrees. I mean, they're exact. They're not just conjunct. They're like on top of each other, basically. at 22 degrees and 46 minutes. And then we had Ceres, we had Mercury. So all of this right here, along with Jupiter and the South Node also all in Capricorn right here. So the big thing right here was that the sun was conjunct this Pluto and Saturn at this exact moment of what, 11:11 a.m. in Washington, D.C. So this is really an unusual configuration. And so astrologers had kind of kept their eye on that for years previous to this date. And they'd been kind of saying, I wonder what's going to happen when Saturn and Pluto become exact. Like, what is that going to involve? And right next to Mercury, right next to the sun. And so this is in the sign of Capricorn, this purple right here. And Capricorn deals with government. It deals with patriarchy. It deals with kind of like hierarchical structures of, like government, not just like the government, but also like, how do you govern? Like, how are things structured? How is civilization functioning? Okay. Mm-hmm. So we have all of this going on right here. And so that was on January the 12th of 2020. And so to sum up what we're looking at right here, what we're looking at is that kind of on a national level and kind of also on a global level, but this is the chart for America in particular, we're seeing our national identity being expanded in a really negative karmic way. All of our unresolved baggage is getting drawn up to be dealt with, and it's going to cause a death and a rebirth. And it may involve how we communicate. And so all of that kind of stuff, and how we take care of ourselves, our self-care and nurturing. So that's kind of a very brief overview of what happened, but this was a very unusual astrological configuration that astrologers have been looking at for a long time.
Yeah.
So when January 12th rolled around, I and like all my astro friends, we were sitting there like, okay, here's the day. We were all freaking out, what's going to happen? And nothing happened, and nothing happened, and nothing happened. But on January the 21st, so what, 11 days after 11:11 a.m. on January the 12th, that was when President Donald Trump shut down the border between, or like the flights between China and the US, right? And that was when it was like, okay, but for real, we're going to start taking coronavirus seriously. And then we see how it just kind of snowballed from there. And so basically, since this happened, like nothing happened on that day. Hey, you want to talk to us, baby? Be quiet.
Hi, baby.
And she's 4 months old, so you're a little bit talky. So anyway, nothing happened on that exact day, but like by 2 weeks later, some big stuff had happened. And so I kind of expect the same for the true Pluto return that's coming up, is that we might not see any big thing on that day, but probably by the end of March of 2022, it will be like very clear that something has changed. Something has shifted societally that now we're going to have to deal with. And can we say what it is going to be for sure? No, but we can look at these patterns and say, well, in the past, other nations dealt with the following during their Pluto returns. So what might we be looking at? Yep. And we can already see how this is playing out, because for us, like, what have we had since this configuration on January the 12th? Well, we've had worldwide lockdowns, we've had panic, we've had shortages of different stuff. Even if all that you had to deal with was the toilet paper shortage, like it was real, but people all over the world have been having, widely different experiences with this energy, but like no one can deny that the world is a different place since January the 12th.
And if we think about January 5th, even like going back then, that was when there was that big rally at the White House and the groups came in and someone was shot and it was this big thing. And now we still hear it on the news, right? But that was also, I don't know if that had anything to do with the star chart thing.
That was the following year. So that was 2021.
2021. Yeah. Okay, we're still in 2020. Yeah. Yes, the following year. Okay.
It was still influenced by this energy of, we're starting to look at, so here's the thing, Pluto deals with death and rebirth. And in the sign of Capricorn of government, what we're looking at is a death and rebirth of government. And so we can kind of see how that's been playing out with things like those rallies, and not just those rallies. I mean, like, people all over the political spectrum are having all kinds of rallies that are saying we want something different than what we have, right?
Yes,
like, we're
yes.
not happy with how things are. No matter how you feel about these different groups that are, coming out and trying to take a stand with this, like, people aren't happy with how things are.
No.
And we have different ideas on how to solve it. But this growing demand for a death of the current system and a rebirth, I mean, that's what it is. It's a growing demand for some really big changes.
Yeah, but it seems like more than anyone else, like the global leaders of all these countries are the ones who want to change it. They want to make a new system and a new world order and all of this. So it doesn't feel like the people's voices are being heard on what they want. It just comes down to what these elites want.
Yes. Yeah, I think that is true. And I think that we see that, right now in particular, and astrologically speaking, we've been going through, I mean, here, shall we just pull up right now? Let's say, does it give me an option for the current transits? Let's see. There we go. This is just right here, right now. In Melbourne, Australia. So we'll just edit that, because I'm not there. So
no, but they got some crazy stuff going on too.
They have got some crazy stuff going on. I mean, I guess we can just leave it. So, okay. So Melbourne, Australia, the thing that I want to show is this node right here, this little horseshoe guy, and this horseshoe across from it. This is a global energy that we're all dealing with right now. And that's the nodal path from Sagittarius to Gemini. Sagittarius is the arrow down here, and Gemini is the twins, right? The number 2. And
Okay.
so what this energy basically means is that on a global level, we're having to really deal with, who do we trust? The elites, which would be the Sagittarius, the professors, the scientists, the theologians, all of these people that want to tell people what to do. Or are we going to listen to our own eyes and what we actually are observing with our own experiences?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that's been a really prominent energy right now. And that has also been triggering a lot of conflict, because you get the people that say, trust the experts, which to me, this is really a karmic energy. Like, this is a negative energy at this time, or like, we're supposed to be moving away from trusting the experts and moving towards, what is your own experience? Did everyone that you know die from a mysterious virus? Like, no, actually, I didn't. Like, no, so like, what is your personal experience telling you? What are the experts telling you? And we're having a lot of conflict about that on a global level.
Yeah, we are definitely seeing a lot of that going on. It feels like such a divide, especially with that, because even like people that I'm really good friends with still feel strongly that we need to listen to authorities. We need to listen to governments and leaders and, do what we have to do. And I'm basically of the mindset of, but I don't see that going in a good direction. I can see what they've already done and what they're doing, and that doesn't feel right to me. So there is this energy of division, from a lot of people.
I saw this meme this morning. It said, I don't know how this ends, but I don't like the look of the trailer. And I was like, so true. I was like,
so true.
No good.
The trailer doesn't, it smells funny, doesn't it? Speaking of planets real quick, the planet Saturn, I was watching something where they said Saturn is more of the planet of Satan. Is that true? Satan? I don't know. But they also said, like, when you were looking at it, it looked like all these other planets were attacking it. And so I don't know. I was just watching some other astrology stuff, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that planets could represent, like Jupiter, of course, is the king planet, which is like Jesus Christ, right? So Saturn to them, or whoever I was listening to, was mentioning that this could be Satan's planet. What do you think?
That's really interesting. I haven't ever heard that. I haven't delved into that. I just kind of work with, like, I don't know, more traditional astrology, I guess.
Yeah.
But Saturn comes from, I mean, obviously, like the Latin Saturn, who is associated with Kronos in Greek. So like Pluto is Hades, and like Venus is Aphrodite. It's like mythology based.
Yeah.
Saturn does sound like Satan, but it's like not the same, or like it doesn't come from the same root, you know.
Yeah.
But Saturn is known as the great malefic, and Jupiter is known as the great benefic. So the great benefic, Jupiter, wherever it is in a chart, it's going to expand. That's where your blessings are going to come in. Like wherever Jupiter is, you're probably going to see a lot of growth and like positive energy. And Saturn has traditionally been associated with really negative energy. Because it is associated with Kronos. Kronos is the Greek god of like time, and Saturn deals a lot with time. And the thing about time is that it compounds all of your choices. So for example, like weight loss is a really great example of how this works. Because people, so many people want to lose weight. We want to lose weight, and like we'll eat good for one day and then jump on the scale and be like, oh my gosh, but I only ate 1,200 calories and I weigh exactly the same. Like I didn't even go down 1 pound.
Right.
And we cry about it, but like it was just one day. And for anything to really happen, it's compounded over time. Basically, everybody's life, you look around at the life you're living, this is the result of the compounding of time. It's the result of every tiny choice that you have made up until this point, and that has brought you where you are. And so one tiny choice right now won't save the day. One tiny choice right now won't fix everything. Like in a churchy thing, like churchy stuff, they say read your scriptures every day. Well, that's because reading a scripture here, reading a scripture there, it doesn't compound to give you a life that is built on a foundation of scripture. Like, and the same thing with weight loss, like eating a vegetable here and like doing a workout there is not going to compound into the lifestyle that is fit and healthy. You have to do it every day. And so what Saturn does is it just draws your attention to that principle. And so here's the thing. If you are living a great life, you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. It's going to compound with Saturn and bless you like crazy. That's when Saturn is showing up for you like that. That's when all your blessings come in, because that's what you've earned. Saturn is all about compensation. It gives you back the things that you've earned over time. So if you've done a lot of good things and you've been doing, you've been taking care of your body every day. You've been getting enough sleep every day. You prioritize your spiritual growth every day. Saturn's going to compound that for you and show you like, wow, you've done great. Like, here's a bunch of rewards. But most people are not on top of their life. So Saturn shows up really negatively for them, right? Saturn shows up. And this is why if you Google up Saturn returns, everyone's terrified of their Saturn return. I was terrified of my Saturn return, but it turned out good because I'd put in a lot of work. And Saturn returns, if you've done the emotional work, then they're really good for you. If you haven't done the emotional work, then Saturn brings up all of the junk that you need to deal with. And sometimes it'll do it all at once. And then your life falls apart. And that's why people know about the Saturn return.
How often does Saturn return?
Every 29 years. So you have a Saturn return around when you're 28 to 30. You have it again like around when you're like 58, like 57 to 60 area, you're going to feel that. And then some people get a third Saturn return, about 30 years after that. Most people don't get a third Saturn return.
Okay, you guys compound right now. We got to 10x our efforts. Keep it going.
Go get your act together, because Saturn will compound it. And like, you're going to see the fruits of your labors either way. Were you lazy? Did you get it together? Like, Saturn brings you the fruits of your labors. And so if your labors are good, it's a great planet. I love Saturn. But if your labors are not that good, then it will be not very fun.
Yeah.
And so that's why when we had Saturn conjunct Pluto, sorry, let me pull it back up. So this is Saturn sitting, it's like a chair, and next to Pluto, who's rising from the dead right here. I'm for those listening to the podcast, I'm referring to the glyphs, like the little shapes that represent the planets on the chart. But you see they're exact. So what we're seeing is a death and rebirth having to do with how have we spent our time as a country? How have we spent our time? Have we been putting in the energy and effort to be healthy, or kind of not? And I think on a national level, we all know the answer to that. Like, obesity is skyrocketing. we're not healthy as a nation, physically speaking. We're not healthy as a nation, emotionally speaking. Like, where is our health? And like on a religious level, more people don't believe in God than ever. Like, fewer and fewer people are going to church. Like, we have not been putting in the effort to get a really great outcome on a national level from this Saturn Pluto conjunction. Because on a personal level, that doesn't have to be the case. On a personal level, if you've been putting in the work and you're ready to like die to your old self and be reborn and like receive the blessings that are the natural consequence of your good choices compounded over time, then this is a fabulous chart. But I think on a national level, this is not so fun to deal with on a national level.
Yeah, it's not. It sounds like it would be terrible for people, right? With that energy there.
And it has been. I mean, this is from 18 months ago, this chart that we're looking at. And what have we seen? I mean, like, the big C that's been ravaging the nation mostly affects people who are already unhealthy. Like, the people that are dying from it typically have 3 to 4 comorbidities. So it's like pretty much striking down people that are already unhealthy, which is what you would expect from this placement. And we can see how, and like, suicide rates have skyrocketed as well, which is also like the side effect of, the emotional health issue coming to a crisis for people. Like, we can see how a lot of different things have been showing up and coming to its crisis point in the past 18 months. But now with the Pluto return, what we're going to see is that taking a step further. Like, we're just looking, this is the trailer. Like we were kind of talking about, this is the trailer. What's the movie going to be? That's what we're really looking at.
So the Pluto return patterns haven't been beautiful and awesome and amazing at any time, right? They've always had some destruction, doom and gloom behind it. So we can't expect our Pluto return to be just, we're going to change society for the better and everything's going to go great, just how we want it to. We'll go back to normal. It's all going to be good. We can't really expect that, right? From the patterns.
I guess that's probably unrealistic. Yeah. On a global level. Here's the thing. I do think on a personal level that can be, are you personally, not you personally, but like our listeners, are we individually in an emotional space where we're ready to start kind of like creating a Zion society? Because I do think that we can have a personal rebirth that is good and positive, but it's probably going to involve giving up a lot of physical possessions, possibly going to a different place, or maybe not. But like, I always tell my own clients, like, this is a difficult time that we're going through in general, but it doesn't have to be difficult for you.
Yeah.
I think on a societal level, we're in for it, but on a personal level, it doesn't have to be that way. But we do have to be putting in the work to heal up our emotions and to be doing the smart things, like I just had this baby 4 months ago. I'm still carrying 30 pounds of baby fluff. And I just have been feeling like this is the time I have to like take care of this now. And so I've been exercising every day. And I know that over time it's going to compound until I get back to my normal size. And like, that's kind of how we have to all go into our lives right now, is like, what are the choices we need to make right now to compound over time so that, in 6 months from now, we're going to be in a good place and not in a negative place.
Yeah. And we do it without panic or stress, right? We just kind of do it day by day and live in alignment. I've been studying a lot about human design. I don't know if that goes along with what you do, but it sounds very similar, a lot of this stuff. But it's really about being in alignment with your energy and what gets you the best results, whether it's bringing in more wealth or bringing in more people and loving relationships, but you need to align with certain frequency and energy in order to make that happen. So we don't speed through things. We don't rush through things. We just, sometimes we don't like our body and we want to change it so fast, but we have to slow down and go, wait a minute, what are just the healthy habits I can be doing every day that I know how to do, that I will do, that I can just make those compound over time. And for some people, it's just, I'm going to drink a few extra ounces of water every day. Perfect. You kind of meet yourself where you're at, and then you try going one better, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I love that you mentioned that. And if I can expand on that for just a moment.
Yeah.
Um, it's easy to feel like you listen to this stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, well, I don't have any time. I only have 6 months. That's no time. Um, and feeling rushed and pressed and everything. And I'll be real for myself. I've had like dreams and visions of like basically societal collapse since I was a little kid. And so like I'm like 12 years old freaking out like, "Mom, we don't have a lot of time. Like what am I going to do? Like how am I going to survive the collapse?" My mom's like, "What is this weirdo? Like who is this kid? Like what are you talking about?" And of course then we've had so many years since I was 12. Um like we don't have to rush about it. Okay, everything is in its perfect timing. If this is the first time that you're really taking preparedness seriously and thinking about how you're going to take care of your own body and prepare your own emotions and resolve your own like inner crises so that you can be prepared for this, it's okay. You have the perfect amount of time. That's why you're finding out about it now, because now is the time that you're ready. And yeah, we don't need to freak out. We don't need to lose our minds. We don't need to be crazy people. We can say, okay, now I know. I always say my 4-part cycle is ask, listen, act, repeat. So we're going to ask the divine, ask our own body, like, body, God, what do we need to do to be ready for what's coming? We listen. We take action when we have an answer, and then we just do it again. And every day you just get up and say, okay, what should I do today? And then you do it. And then you do it again tomorrow. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. And I have 5 kids. And, this past week, our basement flooded. We had, just like every ridiculous thing happened this week. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I don't have time for this. But really, I do have time for this. And God knew that was the perfect time for all of this stuff to show up. And I'm sure that it was. And I didn't get to do as much inner healing work as I wanted to. I didn't get to exercise at all because my basement is flooded. And it's okay because it's the perfect time, and I don't know necessarily why, except I'm really glad that this is getting taken care of before the winter. Like this is the perfect time before everything goes crazy, just from being cold. But we just have this chance every day as the little junk from every day shows up and throws a wrench in our well-laid plans. It's okay. Okay, like God already knew this was going to happen. We have the perfect amount of time. And we do the best that we can every day. And maybe some days we won't be able to do anything that we wanted. But it's okay. That's all in the divine timing.
Oh, I love that. I always live by that saying too, like everything happens right on time. When someone's like, oh, but my dad wasn't supposed to die. I'm like, what if you just choose to believe that everything, like he died right on time? Like everything happens right on time. Like we all die right on time.
Yes.
And then you don't feel this stress and this pressure to be like, whoa, well, I got to accomplish this and this and this. You say, no, like everything happens right on time.
Yeah. Well, if I can expand on that, potty training, my 3-year-old, I'm like, it's okay. Her potty training is happening right on time, or like teething. It's okay. It's happening right on time. All the stupid, inconvenient stuff, your car breaking down and like one of our cars failed the emissions test. It's like, it's okay. It's all on time. It must be the perfect time because otherwise it wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, exactly. And when you live from that energy, you're not stressed out so much. You just kind of go with the flow and then life just is happening for you instead of to you, right? I love that so much.
Exactly.
Okay, good. Well, this pretty much completes our Pluto return part 2, except for the nodal paths. You talked about us being in Sagittarius to Gemini or something like that. Is that where we're at now?
Yeah, that is where we're at now. I'll pull that back up so we can look at it for people watching on video. Yes, you can see these horseshoes are at 3 degrees Gemini, and the little horseshoes go backwards. So it's at 3 now, and then later it'll be at 2 degrees Gemini, and then 1 degree Gemini, and then 0 degrees Gemini, and we're going to transition into Scorpio to Taurus. And so
that's coming up, guys.
It's coming up in January 2022. Yeah. And so the shorthand for it is the zombie apocalypse. And I have a video about that, but this is just going to be the energy for everybody where all of the skeletons in our closet are going to come take shape and we're going to have to deal with them. So I've been inviting my own, clients and students to be really working hard on proactively looking at what's going on in my heart that I don't want to deal with, that I don't want other people to know about. What am I ashamed of? What do I not want to deal with? Now is the time to be working through that stuff so that when that energy transitions into that Scorpio Taurus nodal path, we've already got the head start on it. It doesn't have to be traumatic. I really believe that none of these things have to be traumatic, but we do have to do the work. We do have to look within and start resolving these things and making better decisions every day so it can compound. But yeah,
Yes.
That's what we're looking at. January, we're going to see the emotional zombie apocalypse show up. And then in February, we get to see the renewal of kind of like the 1776 energy in America. So,
okay. So how long is the Scorpio in alignment with, what's the other one?
Taurus.
And it starts in January?
Yeah. January 18th, 2022 is when it starts. And every nodal path goes for 18 months.
18 months. Okay.
So
all right.
A year and a half. Yeah.
Of emotional turmoil, it sounds like. Zombie apocalypse, emotional turmoil.
Yeah. If,
Dang.
if we channel it that way, or like everybody has some skeletons in the closet. So it's time to deal with them and get them out of the way so that when that hits, it's not going to be the tsunami tidal wave that knocks us down. We're going to be prepared. We're going to be happy. We're going to handle it in stride because we've already been working through the darkest of the energies.
Okay. I love it so much. Wow. Okay. This was so awesome. So we're going to tell our listeners again where they can find you if they want to follow you. And that is allieduzett.com, right? And Allie Duzett classes.com. You've got a lot of really amazing classes. She's got a free one you can start with on just working with foundations and energetic foundations, right? That's kind of your free course, which is I've started to dive into. It's really good.
Oh, yay.
And then you've got a Facebook page people can find you on, Intuitive Healing with Allie Duzett. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a Facebook group and it's super supportive and people are always in there talking about everything cool. So you should join us.
Yes, I'm on there. I have joined.
Oh, I mean the listeners, come join
listeners,
us.
You got to come in. Yeah.
Heather, we're awesome.
Yeah. She's got, and she's always posting her new classes and just her fun stuff going on to help you learn more about this deep emotional stuff too. That's going to help you get through that zombie apocalypse. We need to start now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Allie. I really appreciate your time and teaching my listeners all about this stuff. And we will be back for part 3 as soon as we can get it out to you guys. So this was really great. Thanks, Allie.
Oh, thank you.